Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Inside the 20 with myself and Keith Niebuhr. I am your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, you're absolutely missing out. Now's a great time to get joined up. I'm joined, as I always am, by Mr. Keith Niebuhr. Keith, how you doing today, big dog?
You could just call me Junior Recruiting Editor. How about that?
Oh, I like it.
You're the senior, I'm the junior. Now everything's good, man.
Obviously,
I know
that's
you're
not by age.
well, whatever. I know that you're excited because we think this transfer portal window is closing today. So this is yeah.
Please, if you haven't been following along, today, January the 18th, is the last day you can enter the portal. If you haven't entered the portal by the end of today, you will have to wait until May. Auburn has already got 12 additions from the portal, and we don't think there's going to be any more, but just when you say that, here comes another one. So I'm not ever saying anything is final when it comes to the transfer portal. But I will be ready for it to end, man. It's been fun, though. It has, because Auburn has had a lot of success in the portal, has gained those 12 guys at positions of need. Still some positions of needs, and that begins with quarterback. We do not think Auburn will bring in a quarterback until after spring, unless something has changed from in the past 24 hours. I don't expect Auburn to bring in a quarterback. Maybe edge, maybe another linebacker. All that could happen after the spring. We'll see how that goes. Keith, we will be turning our attention, which of course you already have, to the 2024 class. We've seen guys come in for visits since the contact period has opened. We've seen coaches go on the road as well. We'll hit both of those subjects today. Before we get started, Keith, I know you were asking me if I knew anywhere somebody could get a new car, maybe a good used car. You already know, but I guess you forgot. Look no further than Mr. Caleb Schofield. Mike Patton Auto on the Fayette Parkway in LaGrange, Georgia. Caleb's got it all, Keith. He's got new Ford, Lincoln, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and even Hondas. And a fantastic used car lot, which Keith cherry-picked from earlier or late last year. All used cars have to pass a multi-point inspection before they even think about selling them, folks. They back all those used cars with a free 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty. The new cars come even more insured. Will come with a free lifetime powertrain warranty, unlimited time, unlimited mileage. Get that call in to Mr. Caleb Schofield, 334-531-0996. If you're not looking for a car like me, but you know somebody who is, send them to Caleb. He'll send you $300. $300 just for a little finder's fee, if you will. Caleb Schofield, 334.
Did you get a finder's fee for sending me there?
You didn't come to me first.
So no, I did. That's not true. I did. I asked for a number.
You know what? You're right. And you know what? I got 2 free hunts out of it. So I'm not complaining.
Well, there you go.
I'd rather have 2 hunts than $300.
Listen, I took my new Bronco that I bought from Caleb to get it washed yesterday. I didn't realize how much it costs to get a car wash. I haven't done one in a while, without using a hose myself. And but at the end, Jeff, the guys were like, "Hey, man, I love this car." And so, look, I mean, I got an attention-getting car, the Bronco, the Ford Bronco that everybody loves. And so they've been great to me. It was effortless. In fact, when I got billed, you have to pay all the state fees and all that. And I live in Florida and the dealerships in Georgia. So they have to figure it all out. And I actually overpaid. So you never know if you're even going to get that back, right? Well, sure enough, I got the check back a few weeks later. So, they were first class all the way.
You have a vehicle at the men like, huh?
Whatever. I got a vehicle that everybody likes.
All the fellas really like that vehicle. All right.
Well, wait a second. Don't you drive a truck?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk recruiting.
Let's do it, man. Let's see. Keith, let's get started with 2024s, man. I've kind of been on the back burner with those guys trying to keep up with the transfer portal. So I'm reading your stuff, trying to identify some of these major targets. You've talked to some 2024s, 2025s, and I think you even talked to a 2027.
Well, 2026. I've talked to 2 2026s, but
okay.
Hey, look, I mean, we joke about it. Like 2026 means he'll be playing 2028, probably 2027 in that range, which means you and I will be, having, young nurses wheeling us into the stadium at that point. We'll be so old, but But last night, we'll start with the 2026, and this is an interesting one. Keenan Britt, okay? So, Jeffrey, you and I covered the recruitment of KJ Britt, outstanding linebacker from Oxford, Alabama, that signed with Auburn. And when he would visit, he was always with three people: mom, dad, and his little brother, Keenan. Now, KJ was actually a young senior. He was 16 years old when he committed to Auburn. His little brother was 8, 9 years old at the time, and all the recruiting staffers loved him, and all the coaches loved him, and he was just the sweetest kid ever, okay? Well, this past summer I was traveling with, I'm good friends with the Brahms family, and they said, who's becoming a pretty good prospect? Keenan Britt. And I said, little Keenan? They said, he's not so little anymore. Well, yesterday Auburn offered Keenan Britt a scholarship. He's a 2026, which means he's a freshman at Oxford High in Alabama. Wow. He's an edge. A little Keenan is 6'2", 230. 6'2", 230 pounds, which means he's bigger than his brother, KJ, who now plays for the Tampa Bay Bucks right down the road from me. Already, listen, as an 8th grader, he was starting on the defensive line at Oxford High, which, historically is probably one of the better 20 programs in the state of Alabama. Then next year, as a freshman, he started at edge, and Jeffrey, he was a captain on the team. Have you ever in your life heard of a freshman captain in the sport of football?
And this is at Oxford.
At Oxford, yes.
Head coached by Sam Adams, former teammate of Jeffrey Lee at Bevel State.
The school with the big stadium So anyway, Auburn's already going to recruit him, and he's going to visit a bunch of schools. He's got 3 offers: Arkansas, Auburn, and guess who the third one is? You'll love this one: UCF. Well, Gus Malzahn was the head coach at Auburn when they signed KJ Britt. So it'll be a fascinating recruitment moving forward. We got a long time to go. Auburn clearly is where the kid's heart has always been. But now it becomes sort of a business decision, a decision that a heart has to play a role in it, sure, but he's got to find the best fit academically, athletically, and all that stuff. But just a kind of a cool day yesterday for the Britt family. One of the first people he told was his brother, again, who plays for the Bucks. And he said, man, he was so excited and very emotional about it. And as you can imagine, so great day for the Britt family. Now, you mentioned 2024s. I spent the day at Tampa Catholic High School yesterday. Head coach Jairus McIntyre, linebackers coach, I think a guy you might have covered, Dontarius Thomas.
I ain't that old.
Well, you're not. Well, you know who he is. You were a fan of these.
Oh, one of my favorite linebackers of all time. Yes.
A bad dude. Yeah. Well, he's a linebackers coach at Tampa Catholic, and like I said, Jairus is the head coach. Coming off a big season, they beat their rival Tampa Jesuit for the first time in 20 years. Okay, went 11-2, deep into the playoffs again. A big win over Berkeley Prep, which had Keon Keeley, the number 2 recruit in the country, signed with Alabama. Big defensive end. Well, they've got 3 players, Jeffrey. Again, another thing you don't hear of very often. 3 players in the 2023 class with Auburn offers. Okay, one of them is a big offensive lineman, 2024. I'm sorry. One of them is an offensive lineman, Eddie Pierre-Louis. He's got 53 offers. Okay. Auburn very much in the hunt. His older brother, you remember this guy, Richard Garage, big-time offensive tackle, who signed with Florida. But Auburn was one of his 3 finalists with Clemson. So the family, I'm told the family still remembers that. They remember Auburn. They loved Auburn. Eddie's going to try to get back up there again. He's already visited Auburn at least once. Second player I wrote about this morning, T.J. Moore. Yeah. Well, we know Hugh Freeze loves big, tall receivers. When he was at Ole Miss, he signed DK Metcalf, now maybe the best receiver in the NFL, and A.J. Brown, big receivers. Well, Terrence T.J. Moore at Tampa Catholic, 6'4", 190, had over 1,000 receiving yards last year. He's over 30 offers, and Auburn offered him last fall, and now the new staff has re-offered him. He plans to visit Auburn this spring. He's just starting to build a relationship with the new receivers coach, Marcus Davis, and they have a third player, like I said, in the 2024 class with an offer. Oh gosh, I hope I get his name right. I think it's Xavier Porter. Let me double check that. I think it's. Can we look that up? Xavier Porter.
I think that's right.
Xavier Porter. I'm gonna. It's a beautiful thing here of having a computer. Yeah, Xavier Porter, defensive tackle. Now he's listed at 6'1.5", 260. I'm told that's wrong. I met him yesterday, and he's much taller than that. He's probably 6'3". But Auburn's offered him, and he'd like to visit Auburn as well. I think Florida State is maybe the early team to watch there, but. We know one thing. Jairus McIntyre, the head coach, the former Auburn receiver, he's not going to shove Auburn down these guys' throats. Right? He's not going to force Auburn on them. But he's going to talk Auburn up to them. There's no doubt about that. He's just not going to push them there hard. And he's already saying good things about Auburn. He's got the 3 guys excited about Auburn. the plan is to get them up there this spring, and we'll go from there. But those are look. Auburn's had success at Tampa Catholic before. Devin Barrett was a running back that they signed, and
Nate
then
Craig.
Nate Craig Myers, and so Auburn has had success there before. We'll see if they can do it again.
Lots going on with the 2020. Man, I was really surprised at the number of offers, not just interest and visits from these younger guys, but the 2025 and 2026 is the offers. Very, very new to me, I guess. You hear,
me too. Me too. But we got to, and by the way, before I forget, I'm cutting you off here. I'm sorry, but I don't want to forget about Walker White, the quarterback that visited Monday. Another 20.
That was after our that was after our show. That was after our show,
yes.
Keith. So let's talk about Walker White, because I was going to get into the coaches on the road visits. One of the first visits we know of that Hugh Freeze made was to Little Rock Christian in Arkansas to see Walker White. He came in Monday for a visit. You talked to him, Keith. What was the feel?
Well, you and I are always talking about reading the tea leaves. A lot of times we have good sources. We don't have to read the tea leaves. People tell us what's going to happen. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to literally read the tea leaves. And, well, you pointed it out. That was Hugh Freeze's, we think, first visit of this January evaluation or January contact period where coaches can get out of the road. That was his first school. So first school he went to, we think. Walker White, I keep wanting to call him Walker Howard, but Walker White, 4-star quarterback coming off of a solid season at Little Rock Central in Arkansas. He told us going into the visit, he said, I'm really intrigued by Auburn. He's a deeply religious young man, and he felt like he already had a connection with Hugh Freeze because he knows Hugh Freeze's story. He knows how strong of a Christian Hugh Freeze is. And so he brought that up. I didn't bring that up. This was before the visit. And he also said, I love his story, the redemption story, the comeback story, right? That was before the visit. We were already starting to get some vibes. And man, Freeze, first visit, all the things this guy's saying about the Freeze and about his offense. And then he visited, Jeffrey, which it took me a long way to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it went better than expected. He spent about 8 hours there,
Wow.
7.5, 8 hours there with his family. Was going to visit, I think, Bama the next day. That visit didn't take place. Part of the visit was Hugh Freeze driving him around campus.
Ooh.
Gosh, I've been covering Auburn for a long time, and the head coach ain't driving somebody around campus in a golf cart unless they're serious about that guy, right?
Absolutely.
Some head coaches don't do it at all. But that tells you something. And you and I have talked about this. We feel like this guy, it sure feels like he's their number one QB target right now. I mean, it absolutely feels like it. So he spent a lot of time with Hugh Freeze, and he's told me, he said, I love that Hugh Freeze isn't afraid to let the world know he's a Christian. Well, I don't generally get into those, the religious talk in a recruitment, unless it's you get the feeling that it's truly important to a young guy. And it is because he's the one bringing it up, right? And he loved that about Hugh Freeze, and he feels like that they're aligned in that area. So that's a big deal to this young guy. And then he knows Hugh Freeze likes to throw the heck out of the football. Okay. So they're really clicking right now. His plan is to come back to Auburn for spring practice. He wants to see it up close and personal and get to know Hugh Freeze and the offensive coordinator, Philip Montgomery, and Ken Austin, who's going to be working with the QBs. I mean, gosh, Auburn's really got an arsenal of wizards working with these QBs. So that's a big selling point on the recruiting trail, believe me. And so when you look at what they've done with guys before, Robert Griffin with Montgomery, Malik Willis and Chad Kelly with Hugh Freeze. So it's all lining up right now. Everything is telling us that, one, he's the number one guy on the board. He's got to be. If not one, he's certainly in the conversation, but we think he's number one. And two, Auburn is way up on top of his board too. Now, who else is he looking at? Well, Ole Miss, but Ole Miss just picked up a young transfer today. Walker Howard, the other Walker. Does that mean, a quarterback doesn't want to get stacked behind guys? You know what I mean? So also he's looking at Auburn and seeing great opportunity moving forward. So I think Auburn's going to be a factor here, a big factor. I'm afraid to say favorite because I'm just starting to get to know the guy, and I know you are too. But, man, at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up at Auburn, quite frankly. This is a 4-star kid. This is the guy that right after he got the job, Hugh Freeze had already identified him as the guy or a big guy. And so, to me, it's all looks like it's heading in the right direction for Auburn. I guess that's the best way to put it, Jeffrey. I don't know how you feel about it.
Absolutely, from reading your stuff, from talking to people who know more about it than I do.
Yeah,
I would say, I think it's safe to say, at least right now, Auburn is certainly one of, if not the team to beat. I mean, they're in very good position. I'm not saying I'm not putting in a prediction or anything like that. I think it's
Yeah,
still
I'm
too
scared
early.
too. Yeah,
But
yeah,
but but him coming back to a practice for another visit in the span of 2 months, Hugh Freeze going
yeah.
to see him. You got to feel good. If you were another school wanting this kid, you would kind of be a little worried about what you're seeing with his interest in Auburn.
That's right. I mean, he already liked Auburn and Hugh Freeze. He already liked Auburn. He already liked Hugh Freeze because of the offensive elements, and now they've clicked on a personal level.
Right.
And a lot of times that's what gets a school over the hurdle, the final hurdle, right? I mean, you know what I mean? I yeah, I'm not ready to put in a pick yet, but in a couple of weeks, when I reach out to him again and see where things are headed and ask him how often he's talked to Auburn and if it's still moving in that direction. Obviously, Clemson's somebody to watch because we know Dabo. A lot of the similar, where's the religious elements on his sleeve, and I think that's going to resonate with him as well. Alabama's involved, Ole Miss obviously again, but now they've picked up the LSU transfer Walker Howard and Alabama and Arkansas, and I think Texas A&M too. So
Yep.
there's a lot of great schools involved. But
Absolutely.
It just seems like he's clicking with Auburn, and he has to see the opportunity there with the QB room being where it is right now, Jeffrey.
Yep. And we talked about Hugh Freeze going to see him. Hugh Freeze was back on the road on Tuesday in the southeastern part of the state, hitting 7 high schools. Looking at some of these schools, he made stops at Saraland, Foley, UMS Wright, Viger, Mobile Christian, St. Paul's, and Fairhope. And of course, some of those schools have some of the top prospects in the state, hell, in the country. You look at Perry Thompson, the 4-star wide receiver from Foley, who just came up this past weekend to visit Auburn. Some buzz there surrounding him. He is committed to Alabama, but Freeze went and saw him yesterday. And then, of course, Saraland, home to KJ Lacey, the quarterback, and also the 2025 wide receiver Ryan Williams, also committed to Alabama. And staying with the theme of Tuesday and him visiting the schools, Hugh Freeze went to Mobile Christian the same day, which is home to Sterling Dixon, another 4-star Alabama commitment. So you've got to he's not giving up on these guys. He's hitting these schools. He's making relationships. He's vetting these recruits. He's headed to Georgia today, Keith. And you know what? Some of these areas of these assistant coaches are starting to become more clear. We saw Jake Thornton on Tuesday head to North Georgia. Jeremy Garrett in Mississippi. Ben Agamaya in the DMV, the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. Carnell Williams went to Birmingham, and then Zach Etheridge, and I believe Crime was down in Mobile as well, somewhere down that way. I think I saw that. But Wednesday, Hugh Freeze is headed to Georgia. Cadillac's going to Cobb County. Ben Agamaya is up in Memphis. Ron Roberts is getting on the road, Keith, and believe it or not, the DC is headed west to Mississippi.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking they're spending a lot. It seems like
there's some focus on Mississippi, and I wonder if it's not just the high schools. This is just me spitballing. Jeffrey, I wonder if they're trying to develop some inroads with the JUCOs, and maybe even, again, this is just a complete shot in the dark here, maybe even looking for that sleeper JUCO guy that didn't sign somewhere in December. I don't know. Just a thought.
Not a bad theory.
Ron Roberts has coached in Louisiana. He's coached in Texas. So basically from Atlanta to Texas, he knows a lot of these places. And, he seems to like being on the road. They're getting after it.
You know what, Keith, about Ron Roberts, you made the comparison to Kevin Steele just personality-wise.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that more and more when he comes by or he walks by. He's always going to come over there and, talk about his Photoshopping skills or, just stuff like that. Very, very cool cat, man. Really like him, kind of in the same way Kevin Steele was.
You know what I like about this staff? Here's an interesting thing, and I don't even know if it matters. The last staff was really into the Twitter game, right? Harsin Love, it was our understanding, I think you heard the same thing that I did, that he basically signed off on almost every graphic that went out. But these guys, they're going a step beyond that. And I know this sounds so simplistic, but why don't more staffs do it? They're liking and retweeting guys like me and you. They're if we're tweeting about a kid that's a recruit to Auburn, they're retweeting it. They're very active on social media. And when I say they, I mean Ron Roberts. I mean Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze has retweeted me 10 times.
Right.
They're paying attention. They're playing the social media game in addition to being on the road. Remember last year, the big criticism was that
that first few days where you could go on the road, Brian Harsin didn't go on the road. He waited a week. And the first time you could get on the road this year in January, Hugh Freeze was in Little Rock that morning before the sun came up. So it's a totally different philosophy. And it's, we'll see if it pays dividends. I think it's going to. I think it already has.
I believe Harson's theory, at least at one point, was we're going to get who we're going to get. We want guys to want to come here.
Yeah.
And it was basically, do you want to come here? And if so, we'll come get you, or we'll come recruit you. If not, we're not going to waste our time.
Well, I think at Boise State, Jeffrey, he didn't really have to go on the road that much. Yeah. And if a kid visited Boise once, man, that's a long trip from anywhere, right? So they knew that they had a really good shot if they got a kid to visit. I think subconsciously they felt the same way. Remember that first weekend after COVID and all that, when they had all those visitors the first week, the first month, and they were so excited, and we were pumping it up in the media. But what we knew, and maybe they didn't know, the coaches anyway, was that was just one visit. These guys visit Georgia 5 times, Bama 7 times, LSU 5 times, and they were excited about getting a kid on campus once. I think this staff early on is showing that they have some recruiting chops and maybe have a better understanding of what needs to be done in terms of building relationships. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse and hit them over the head. Look, Brian Harsin won at Boise, and that's admirable. But the recruiting philosophy wasn't working at Auburn. It wasn't going to work, and we knew that.
Yeah, looking forward to covering this staff, the recruitment, especially now with a full cycle, the 2024 cycle. We're going to be all over the coaches' visits. Juniors are going to be coming in. There's a big junior day scheduled for Saturday week, January the 28th. We'll be all over that. Keith, we're going to throw the flag today, but that's not too bad. But listen, we appreciate everybody, man. If you haven't liked or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. We're trying to get to 5,000, man. If you could subscribe to that channel, it's free. We'll be back Friday with a more in-depth recruiting show. Then, of course, Sunday we'll be back for the call-in show, man. We appreciate everybody listening. For Keith, for Zach in the back, I'm Jeffrey Lee, man. Y'all stay out of the left lane. See ya.